At the top, we have the Samsung S95B. On the bottom, we have the Hisense U8K. As you can clearly see, the Hisense U8K is doing a brilliant job of looking very identical to this cutie OLED. Now, as we're going to go through these examples, you're going to start to see that not only does it hold its own, but it surpasses it in a lot of ways, and shadow detail is one of the big areas. So the S95B has more black crush, where you just can't see the shadow detail comparatively than, obviously what we have on the Hisense U8K. Now, this is going to become a big problem when you're in darker scenes and video games like this, and when you're in movies. So that's one of the biggest differences between these two displays that I think will go missed when everybody's talking about what's better and what's worse. Now, both are producing a wonderful image, and some people might just, might prefer a more silhouetted look. Now, it's not for everybody, but again, I like the S95B in terms of what it offers cinematically, but the shadow detail is nice on the Hisense as well. And unlike in years prior, it doesn't have the muddy, smudgy look with bad gradients and banding everywhere, so it's more enjoyable than it's ever been on Hisense. From a 3D perspective or total immersion, I think Samsung obviously still has the edge because of the self-illuminated pixels, and you combine that in with just their color, it's just another experience altogether. Now, that's not to say that Hisense isn't close, because it's damn close, to the point of if all you had was the U8K, you probably wouldn't care about any of this, and you probably wouldn't need to care because it'd be fantastic either way for you. But there are differences here, and the biggest one is going to be contrast, but be mindful again of those darker scenes because those can be a problem. Now, one of the most impressive things that I can say is just how close these two are with one another, considering one's an OLED and one is not. LED technology, particularly with quantum dots, have come a very long way, and Hisense is definitely holding true to their claim of at least giving you that deep black level and that really, honestly, as close to OLED with no blooming experience as you could possibly get as we're seeing here. I mean, they match up so well with one another that you kind of believe that you're looking at maybe a different kind of OLED that maybe can get a little brighter or something when you look at the U8K. Very impressive considering that it's, again, not. And I think, again, when you talk about price, that's also going to, again, raise concerns because, the S95C, the A95L, and all these other OLEDs that are on the market and are coming out, they're not necessarily, worth the amount of money that initially they're going to ask you for when you have a TV like the U8K knocking around that gives you that 3D look, that gives you that immersion, that's tack sharp, that has wonderful black levels, and that matches an OLED really well, again, after proper adjustment. If you're just taking it out of the box, you'll never see this though. I know I say it quite often, but I really do mean it. These TVs can only be experienced after proper settings. If you do not have that, you're just seeing entry level, not anywhere close to what the TV is capable of performing like. So I can't stress enough that both TVs have been fully adjusted, calibrated, and optimized to show you what they are actually capable of. Now, you don't need the experience to do that. You can join for $5, literally $4.99, and then you can grab my settings, and then you have all of the wonder that you're looking for in your TV. Now, I mention this because a lot of YouTubers just kind of whip TVs out of the box and do exactly what you can do. Give an opinion after looking at something that they put no work into. Anyone can do that, and at that point, just buy the TV and, or go to the store, which is already out of the box, and see if you like it or not. I mean, I don't really know why people do that, but hey, to each their own. What I will say is, after finally tuning and adjusting it, it's just mind-blowing, the black levels on the U8K. I mean, not a drop of blooming, but it's still bright. And it in all the right areas, though. Not pointlessly bright like the TCL. I don't think there's a soul alive that could dispute the black level capabilities of the Hisense U8K. You can say that OLEDs are always going to be king, but when you look at an image like this, I mean, it doesn't get any more decisive. We're looking at essentially LED television that performs like an OLED because we're looking head on, again, not off axis, head on, we are looking at performance that is absolutely top of the line, flagship level. I mean, can I say more? Of course, but I really don't think I need to because it speaks for itself when you see not a drop of blooming, but it's super bright like it is at the bottom on the Hisense. And again, The Samsung S95B, beautiful picture, but just look at that. Come on. I mean, it's ridiculous at a certain point. It gets to such a point where we're watching example after example, and not only are the colors so similar, but the black level performance is just ridiculous in every way that matters. I think the most impressive part to point out is when you have highlights, you don't lose the shadow detail behind it. And not even the S95B can do that all the way. There are some moments like I was showing you in that Spider-Man example where you just lose some detail on the Samsung. And TCL and all these other manufacturers, they're coming up with their TVs and stuff like that. But we've got to give Hisense credit where credit's due. They're doing a darn good job. And I think, honestly speaking, if you're looking for something that's not going to break the bank, I mean, you're kind of going to look no further than where we are right now with this particular display, because it just makes the most sense. And comparatively to an OLED, I mean, you're seeing how it's doing. I mean, it's holding its own to the point where, yeah, it's not 100%, but it's pretty much like 95 to 99% of the time looking like the OLED, to where at a glance, especially when bright colors are on the screen, you're going to have a hard time telling the difference between the two. Where in examples like this, you see hues and shades as the difference, more color coming through. But the S95B is in a breed of its own, covering 90% of BT 2020. Like, we don't have TVs that do that, right? This is like, you're going up against the absolute best of the best. So in that respect, you kind of have to give Hisense some credit. Again, continuing with the theme of just showing you how the black levels differ, there's more shadow detail even though it's a darker scene on the Hisense than what you have on the S95B, which does suck, but again, this is the difference between the two. Now, the Samsung has more color, more vibrancy by far. Hisense a little bit rougher on motion, not by too much though. It does trade off. Sometimes it's smoother, sometimes it's not. But in terms of overall color and everything like that, if you look at a glance, they're very identical, but Samsung obviously does have the edge in color and color accuracy, where shades are what they're supposed to be. Hisense does tend to struggle a little bit more with maintaining that accuracy and that purity where it needs to. However, the three-dimensional look is just way more on the S95B at the top. Hisense at the bottom, though, no slouch, and they're doing a damn good job of looking fantastic. So let's look at color. At the top, we have the Samsung S95B, and at the bottom, we have the Hisense U8K. Now, at a glance, they're very similar, but there are some differences. Now, one thing to keep in mind is the S95B is known for its tremendous vibrancy in color. The U8K, right on its ass, dude. Look at the red. The red is brilliant. It's just like literally a touch less saturated, which I think some people might actually like. And moreover, it does give that extra brightness. So you are kind of winning in that aspect. Blue looks pretty good. But again, when we look up at the S95B, it is another level. It's more three-dimensional. Every little piece of detail that could come out does come out. So that's kind of the difference. And you can kind of see it a little bit when you kind of look in between here. You can see more depth and clarity than what we have right here. Again, more isolation, a little harder to see, but it is there. You can kind of tell because you can see the depth in the trees here where this is a little bit more flat. These are going to be differences that are going to be reoccurring. Again, colors though, at a glance, you can't tell me that that doesn't look very similar. And that's the beauty of this whole thing, right? You're not paying OLED prices to get OLED experiences. And that's important because who the hell wants to pay more than they have to get the same thing or close to it? And I think for a lot of people, this is going to be close enough. I think there's most people out there in the world that are going to look at the Hisense U8K and go, damn, that's pretty good. That's actually pretty close to an OLED. I'm good there. I don't have to go spend an extra $700 or $1,000 or maybe more to get something better. I've got a pretty good set. So I want to show this part of it because this is very important. When you look at color, there is no doubt that like it's so similar. It's so similar that it's just stupid at a certain point. Now again, there are nuances and there are details that we can pick out and we can nitpick for sure. But again, I mean, you're looking at a flagship top of the line Samsung product that's an OLED and something that's not even an OLED. And the clarity is right there next to it. The vibrancy is right there next to it. This kind of stuff rarely ever happens in the television industry. And so to see it happen on this level especially is something that like, it just makes me happy to see because we've been so long overdue for something that can produce this. Now, of course, again, like I was talking about those nuances, well, here you go. You're not getting that rich cyan up here. It's more of a flat singular color. So that's the difference between higher end and lower end. It's called gradients, right? You don't have as many shades, you know, accurately being thrown out at one time. Now, they can technically hit it and they'll boast the specs, but specs don't really tell the full story. But if we're being honest, this is an 8-bit panel at the bottom, and so that's where you're noticing the limitations come in a lot quicker on the Hisense. Being an 8-bit panel, there are moments where you are less accurate. It's just one flat blue, meaning you miss some gradations and some extra shades of color. So again, it's not perfect, but again, you're not paying top dollar either. Again, not an excuse. There are plenty of other TVs that do this, but you get what I'm saying. Like, we're talking from, again, purely just analyzing color, what's being thrown off at the screen. The Hisense is getting too close to an OLED to justify OLEDs anymore. At least if you're somebody that has been even mildly concerned about burn-in, or you know that you want to like not ever have to worry about that as an issue. So there you go, something to think about. In terms of how this picture quality looks for movies, I can just simply say, again, the S95B is going to be more three-dimensional, by far. I mean, we can kind of see it here. And again, this is the difference when we're talking about those colors and those gradients. That's not it, Chief, right? That's obviously what we want to see, more cinematic. But again, that gets more accurate than this. Now, most people might not mind that, but for the purists, they're going to notice these kinds of things. So again, it's not like Hisense is totally slam dunking at all, but it's also like they are performing at a level that you have to admit after a certain while is a little bit higher than your mid-tier level. It's absolutely at a flagship level of performance that makes you wonder, at a price point like this, what are you waiting for kind of thing, especially if you know you like LED. Now again, the S95B all day, every day is my number one pick. Personally, I've bought it so many times, I'm starting to lose count. Okay, but it's a beautiful experience nonetheless. But look at how close this image is right now. I mean, like, if I told you to pick out the OLED, you'd have a hard time doing it. You could do it after a while of sitting there, but it'd take you some looking. And that is a testament to how far these televisions have come. I mean, just looking at how wonderful and how close they're getting to OLED experiences and performance, it's everything. It literally is everything. And with the shadow detail on the Hisense, I mean, really, like, it's really brilliant. And I think a lot of you guys are going to really have, like, the time of your life rewatching some of your old stuff, especially if you're coming from an older TV, or maybe you're like with an older Sony, like an X950G, or maybe you're with a Samsung QN90B or something like that, QN90A, and you're thinking maybe you should upgrade a KS8000, and you go to this bad boy, it's gonna blow your mind. You're gonna be like, what the hell kind of TV did I just buy? Because of the experience that you're able to get for this price point. I mean, nobody's gonna tell you like this, right? Everybody's gonna just try to upsell you. I don't get any commission from anyone. I couldn't care less what you buy, if I'm being completely honest, because we're all adults and I want you all to be happy and enjoy your life with your families. Cherish those memories. Trust me, while you have them. You're going to miss them one day when they're gone, right? That kind of thing. These kind of experiences, those precious movies, holiday time, all of it, you got to watch it on the right set, man. And I'm telling you right now, the U8K is that set, dude. Like, it's hot shit. Now, I'm not trying to sell you the U8K, but I am myself, personally, as an owner of the Samsung S95B, somebody who does this through countless televisions and constantly is analyzing and seeing televisions. I'm surprised at how well it's performing against, again, one of the top tier TVs right now that you could possibly afford. Personally, I love the Tron examples. I think Tron is like just it, right? Like, it'll show you everything your TV is or is not capable of. Now, one thing to note, you can't see it on camera, but there is some like gradational issues, if you will, on the, the Hisense U8K at the bottom. The Samsung is just super freaking clear and clean. It's starting to get a little bit more hazy now on the U8K. I'm noticing it here. They're really emphasizing that like foggy, I don't know, aesthetic of the film. I think that's not the correct look. They're doing it a bit much, right? Where again, the S95B is not having that extra haze in areas like around here. It's just clean and super crystal clear. So that is the benefit of pixel level illumination, obviously. I mean, you get some crazy clean, crazy beautiful shots, crazy images. And again, that's my point here. The S95B is a champion of champions. I mean, the image right now at the top, I don't know how well it'll show on YouTube, but like, dude, like, there's no comparison. They're really at this level right now, in this particular example, with these low light scenes, there's just no comparison. And again, this is something that you also have to know counteractively, LED versus even QLEDs and stuff like that. When you get to lower lit movies like Tron and you get to the battle for the grid, this is going to look the best you've ever seen it on an OLED. QLEDs aren't going to be able to keep up. It's bright and it's wonderful, but they still have to illuminate the crowd in the back and keep the lights maintained and keep the sky somewhat normal and keep the character illuminated and not have bloom at the same time. So you're going to run into some issues of haze from time to time from the backlight kind of spilling through the diffuser. It's just what's going to happen. Where, again, OLED having that pixel level illumination, you don't have to do it, which is why I ultimately always recommend everybody, hey, just run out and buy you an S95B, call it a day, experience the best picture on earth right now today at the consumer level. And I'm telling you, like, that's still my number one go-to, but I'm telling you, Hisense has come very far. So we are giving credit where credit's due, but we aren't losing our mind either in, like, setting unrealistic expectations. Both TVs are doing a phenomenal job, but I do want to show you guys these things. Now, also, oddly enough, from a color perspective, the S95B still holds the better accuracy in skin tones. Hisense not really doing so great here. As you can clearly see, there's just too much blue going on in the face. And I've noticed in general, the screen does tend to be a little bit more towards the cooler side. I don't know if that's the color temperature of the LEDs themselves. Even after calibration, I still notice this phenomenon. So it is something that is very weird, but again, it is what it is. Could be a panel variance thing. I don't know, but it is something that I did want to note. Trying to spot bloom is a lot like playing Where's Waldo. It's not very easy to do on the S95B, or rather, well, obviously not the S95B, right? But the Hisense U8K, because it does a good job of dimming things down when they detect brightness. Like in this example, the screen just gets dimmer. So it acts actually a lot, if for my guys and gals out there who maybe have been watching a longer time, it acts a lot like the Samsung Q8FN from 2018, where when things get bright and it needs to counteract that, they rather dim the screen than give you the blooming. And I think this is the only correct approach when we talk about these LED TVs. You would much rather have star crushing or whatever crushing of information to some degree, or dimming rather, I should say, not necessarily crushing, right? We're not losing the information, it's just dimmer. You'd rather have that than like just the worst, almost horrific display of bleeding and clouding that you've ever seen. And I think that's what makes this so beautiful, because they're able to balance this out. And again, it'd be hard pressed to see any real blooming on this set, as again, example after example, you're kind of seeing what I'm talking about. As far as skin tones are concerned, you can clearly see that both TVs are buttoned up, so you don't have to worry about one maybe having the advantage over the other. They're both racking accurately where they need to, and you're able to see that here on multiple different levels, whether it's, colors here that would normally be bleeding, or, skin tones there that would normally be out of whack. They're not. They just look very balanced and clear and clean. Just to let you guys know, again, this isn't an out-of-the-box comparison, so very important to note that. In truth, you really don't lose with any TV that we have right here before us. If it's the Samsung S95B, you're going to get excellent black levels, beautiful 3D immersion, and honestly the best TV on the market right now today, point blank period. If you want the second best, I'm leaning a lot heavier towards the Hisense U8K, because it gives you damn near OLED black levels with immense brightness, not crazy brightness, but enough in the right areas where flames have the glow and all that stuff. It works, and it works really well. You'll see if you buy it what I'm talking about. Now, motion, again, not the best thing on this particular set, but it makes up for it in a lot of different areas, and it's not like motion is so bad that you just can't use it, or it's trash or whatever. And again, you're seeing against an OLED. Look at this. These black levels are immaculate. We used to have to pay like $3,200, $4,000 to get LEDs that could produce an image like this from Sony and all these other people, and now we're picking them up for like $799, $800. It's ridiculous, man. And now it's to the point where you really do have so many options on the market as to what you want. And so if you don't want OLED and you're like afraid of maybe burn-in or whatever the case may be, you don't have to worry anymore. And again, both TVs are fantastic, but I'm going to give the edge as far as this comparison to the Hisense, or rather to the Samsung S95B, obviously, because it is the better image quality and better TV. But we're going to give Hisense props for coming this far and looking damn close, because as you can clearly see, it's very damn identical in a lot of good ways. So hopefully this helps you guys out. If you have questions about how these two stack up even further, just ask and I'll let you know. Until the next video, I'll see you guys later.